I would like to yield 10 minutes to the gentlelady from Georgia, Mrs. Greene.
The chair recognizes the gentlewoman from Georgia for 10 minutes.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, my Democrat colleagues, Republican colleagues, my district back home in Georgia 14, to the American people, to my mom and dad, and my husband and my children. I've been here for 1 month and a day, and I've gotten to know part of my conference, my Republican colleagues, but not even all of them yet. I haven't gotten to know any of my Democrat colleagues, and I haven't had to have any conversations with any of you to tell you who I am and what I'm about. You only know me by how Media Matters, CNN, MSNBC, and the rest of the mainstream media is portraying me. What you don't know about me is that I'm a very proud wife of almost 25 years, that I'm a mother of 3 children, and I consider being a mother the greatest blessing of my life and the greatest thing that I'll ever achieve. I'm proudly the first person to graduate college in my family, making my parents very happy and proud. I'm also a very successful business owner. We've grown our company from 1 state to 11 states. I'm a very hard worker. I've always paid my taxes. I've never been arrested. I've never done drugs, but I've gotten a few speeding tickets in my day. What you need to know about me is I'm a very regular American, just like the people I represent in my district and most people across the country. I never ever considered to run for Congress or even get involved in politics. As a matter of fact, I wasn't a political person until I found a candidate that I really liked, and his name is Donald J. Trump when he ran for president. To me, he was someone I could relate to, someone that I enjoyed his plain talk, not the offensive things, but just the way he talked normally. And I thought, finally, maybe this is someone that will do something about the things that deeply bother me, like the fact that we're so deeply in debt that our country has murdered over 62 million people in the womb. The fact that our borders are open and some of my friends have had their children murdered by illegal aliens. Or perhaps that maybe we can stop sending our sons and daughters to fight in foreign wars and be used as the world's police, basically. Or maybe that our government would stand up for our American businesses and our American jobs and make the American people and the American taxpayers their focus. These are the things that I care about deeply. So when we elected President Trump, and then I started seeing things in the news that didn't make sense to me, like Russian collusion, which are conspiracy theories also, and have been proven so. These things bothered me deeply, and I realized just watching CNN or Fox News, I may not find the truth. And so what I did is I started looking up things on the internet, asking questions like most people do every day. Use Google. And I stumbled across something, and this was at the end of 2017, called QAnon. Well, these posts were mainly about this Russian collusion information. A lot of it was some of what I would see on the news at night, and I got very interested in it. So I posted about it on Facebook, I read about it, I talked about it, I asked questions about it, and then more information came from it. But you see, here's the problem. Throughout 2018, because I was upset about things and didn't trust the government really, because the people here weren't doing the things that I thought they should be doing for us, the things that I just told you I cared about. And I want you to know, a lot of Americans don't trust our government, and that's sad. The problem with that is, though, is I was allowed to believe things that weren't true, and I would ask questions about them and talk about them. And that is absolutely what I regret. Because if it weren't for the Facebook post and comments that I liked in 2018, I wouldn't be standing here today, and you couldn't point a finger and accuse me of anything wrong, because I've lived a very good life that I'm proud of, my family's proud of, my husband's proud of, my children are proud of, and that's what my district elected me for. So later in 2018, And when I started finding misinformation, lies, things that were not true in these QAnon posts, I stopped believing it. And I want to tell you, any source, and I say this to everyone, any source of information that is a mix of truth and a mix of lies is dangerous, no matter what it is saying, what party it is helping, anything or any country it's about. It's dangerous. And these are the things that happen on the left and the right. And it is a true problem in our country. So I walked away from those things, and I decided I'm going to do what I've done all my life. I'm going to work hard and try to solve the problems that I'm upset about. So I started getting involved in politics. You see, school shootings are absolutely real. And every child that is lost, those families mourn it. I understand how terrible it is because when I was 16 years old in 11th grade, my school was a gun-free school zone, and one of my schoolmates brought guns to school and took our entire school hostage. And that happened right down the hall from my classroom. I know the fear that David Hogg had that day. I know the fear that these kids have. And this is why, and I say this sincerely with all my heart, because I love our kids, every single one of your children, all of our children. I truly believe that children at school should never be left unprotected. I believe they should be just as protected as we were with 30,000 National Guardsmen. Our children are our future, and they're our most precious resource. I also want to tell you 9/11 absolutely happened. I remember that day crying all day long watching it on the news. And it's a tragedy for anyone to say it didn't happen. And so that I definitely want to tell you, I do not believe that it's fake. I also want to tell you that we've got to do better. You see, big media companies can take teeny tiny pieces of words that I've said, that you have said, any of us, and can portray us into someone that we're not. And that is wrong. Cancel culture is a real thing. It is very real. And when big tech companies like Twitter, you can scroll through and see where someone may have retweeted porn, this is a problem. This is a terrible, terrible thing. But yet, when I say that I absolutely believe with all my heart that God's creation is He created them male and female, and that should not be denied, when I am censored for saying those type of things, that is wrong. You see, here's the real situation. I decided to run for Congress because I wanted to help our country. I want Americans to have our American dream. I want to protect our freedoms. This is what I ran for Congress on. I never once said during my entire campaign, QAnon. I never once said any of the things that I am being accused of today during my campaign. I never said any of these things since I have been elected for Congress. These were words of the past, and these things do not represent me. They do not represent my district, and they do not represent my values. Here's what I can tell you. I am beyond grateful for this opportunity, and I'll tell you why. I believe in God with all my heart, and I'm so grateful to be humbled, to be reminded that I'm a sinner and that Jesus died on the cross to forgive me for my sins. And this is something that I absolutely rejoice in today to tell you all. And I think it's important for all of us to remember none of us are perfect. None of us are. And none of us can even come close to earning our way into heaven just by our acts and our works. But it's only through the grace of God. And this is why I will tell you, as a member of this Congress, the 117th Congress, I am a passionate person. I'm a competitor. I'm a fighter. I will work with you for good things for the people of this country. But the things I will not stand for is abortion. I think it's the worst thing this country has ever committed. And if we are to say in God we trust, how do we murder God's creation in the womb? Another thing I will say to this body is I want to work with all of you for our people. It should be America first always, always, and there's nothing wrong with that. And if this Congress is to tolerate members that condone riots that have hurt American people, attacked police officers, occupied federal property, burned businesses and cities, but yet wants to condemn me and crucify me in the public square for words that I said and I regret a few years ago, then I think we are in a real big problem, a very big problem. What shall we do as Americans? Shall we stay divided like this? Will we allow the media that is just as guilty as QAnon of presenting truth and lies to divide us? Will we allow ourselves to be addicted to hate and hating one another? I hope not, because that's not the future I want for my children, and it's not the future I want for any of your children. I yield back my time. Thank you.
For more security, do you feel like, she was, that she has reasons for that?
I don't know why she needs security. She shouldn't have a problem debating about her policy. Why would a member of Congress need security to debate with another member? That doesn't make sense.
Do you feel like your statements about, what happened on January 6th are causing more concern for members and working together on the Hill?
No, I think their statements are causing more problems between members. They're accusing us of things that we never did. We were in the chamber when it happened. We're just as much a victim as anyone else.
But, the way that you were approaching Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, that Speaker Pelosi
by
talking
to her.
So
she says screaming. You know what screaming is? Screaming is what people do when rockets are fired at them, like Hamas terrorists are firing into Israel. That's what people do. They scream when that happens. I was talking to AOC saying, you need to debate me about the Green New Deal. That's her legislation. She should be able to defend it for the American people. She should. Why? I would think everyone should be asking her why she can't defend her policy. And then she's on social media. She's defending terrorists. She's defending terrorist Hamas and supporting them. She also defends Antifa and BLM rioters. We have Ilhan Omar, Kamala Harris sharing the Minnesota Freedom Fund bail bond link, getting people out of prison after they committed crimes during these riots. These are the real questions that need to be asked, not of me for being willing to talk to members of Congress about these issues. See, that's bipartisanship, talking to one another, debating policy for the American people. That's what needs to happen. So, no, she doesn't need to file ethics violations or whatever she's doing. That's reacting like a child. Adults are able to debate policy.
Congresswoman, quickly on the flip side, some colleagues are defending the pro-rioters on January 6th as being peaceful and saying
I have said, look, I have said the entire time, I was a victim of that as well. I was in the chamber when it happened. I have said the entire time it was horrible. It should have never happened. I do not condone violence. I want nothing to do with it. I've said it the entire time. So you guys need to make sure you set the record straight on that. Thank you.
Well, let's talk about the sorry things happening in Washington. Right now, we have Joe Biden running our country. We have Kamala Harris, who's supposed to be in charge of the border and hasn't been there yet. But she'll talk to the Mexican president about a landscaping project, planting trees down there because they need to worry about climate justice and that's somehow going to stop all the migrants. I mean, the illegal aliens from invading our country. What happened to worrying about the children in cages? Does the Biden administration and the Democrats not worry about children in cages anymore? Do they not care about drug trafficking, human trafficking? No, they're in business of helping the cartels. The cartels love the Democrats. Yeah, they're down there, they're like this. They're like, we're making a lot of money off of Biden, Joe Biden. That's my really bad Mexican accent. Oh, they love them. They love them. They are raking it in, helping people invade our country. You know, Joe Biden has a new policy. It's called sanctuary country. Do you all think America is supposed to be a sanctuary country for illegal aliens? No, absolutely not. No, you want to know what's happened to ICE? You see, the Democrats, they have something they love to do to men. They want to take away their masculinity, right? Well, the Democrats want to do the same thing with law enforcement. They want to do the same thing to ICE, and they want to do the same thing to our military. So ICE, under the Trump administration, used to arrest an average of 9,000 illegal aliens a month. Do you want to know what it's dropped to under Joe Biden's ICE? It's dropped down to one, on an average of one every 2 months. They get arrested and deported. ICE agents say that they do not have the support and the backup of the new administration to make these arrests and deport people that are breaking our laws and entering our country. No, as a matter of fact, Joe Biden is welcoming them in. And that's why Kamala Harris has no need to go to the border. They want them in here. Now let's talk about our military. God bless our military. Thank you to every veteran in this room that has served. Thank you to every veteran that is watching this rally. I've never talked to a veteran that said he signed up to serve our country so that America could become a socialist nation. Never. As a matter of fact, they serve to protect our Constitution, protect our freedoms, protect our borders, and protect our American way of life. But Joe Biden has a different plan, and it's happening. He wants a woke military. That's right. As a matter of fact, he has certain people in charge of purging the extremists out of the military. Extremists, can you imagine? It's ridiculous. So they have people in charge, believe it or not, that are actually more Islamic terrorist sympathizers that are in charge of purging our military. This is actually happening, everyone. These are people that have been to activist events, have been involved in organizations, have been apologists for Islamic terror attacks, have been apologists for Hamas, people that said the Muslim Brotherhood should not be called a terrorist organization. These are the people that Joe Biden has purging our military of extremists. That's how woke they are. It's disgusting. This Chinese virus. Dr. Fauci very much was involved in funding the gain-of-function research. This is a virus that has been made. It's a man-made virus, and the proof is coming out more and more. There was a hearing today in the Senate, and I went and listened to the hearing, and I've watched a lot of the video from the hearing, and we are finding out, and it's becoming conclusive, and I think we need to see China share more information with us about COVID-19, but this very much looks to be what we would call a bioweapon. Otherwise, why would we have Dr. Fauci funding gain-of-function, which takes a virus that's spread from animal to animal and then turns it into a virus that can be spread from human to human? That's what a bioweapon is. And now it has sickened the countries all over the world and killed so many people. Yet Dr. Fauci is sitting up on the grand stage and being treated as if he's some sort of hero, when in fact he played a part in funding COVID-19, and then he lied to us over and over and over. You can look back in 2020, early in the year, where he is saying on CNN that COVID-19 is going to kill millions and millions of Americans. And this is exactly how he was advising President Trump. Millions of Americans are going to die. But yet in his personal emails, he was stating that it was going to be several 100,000 people. You see, you can't say one thing in private and then advise differently in public.
This man is the highest paid employee in the federal government, more than the President of the United States. Yet, he's not elected. And his words have guided this nation and how many elected officials in cities and states and our federal government has made decisions that have affected all of our lives. But my voice needs to be suspended and banned on Twitter for talking about these things? That's wrong. Do you know where this happens in the world, everyone? Communist China. When China doesn't like someone, when they don't like what they're saying, they don't like their political beliefs, and they don't agree with them, they silence them. And you know, that's what happened on Twitter. Acting like corporate communists. When we have social media platforms, when we have any kind of organization that is silencing our voices simply because they don't agree or they don't like it, and they don't like the discussion, that's a violation of our First Amendment, our free speech. And as Americans, I would think that is something that we would all find to be so precious that we would all want to do everything we can to protect it. Because imagine if the shoe's on the other foot. What about when Republicans gain back control? Do you want Republicans silencing Democrats' speech? That would be wrong. We can't ever become a nation where we are silencing people because we don't agree or we don't like the questions they're asking, and we're not willing to have those discussions. We're just saying what this person is saying is wrong, and that's misinformation, and that's not the narrative we want to go in the public. But this is where we are. Conservatives are banned, censored, and kicked off of social media every single day. Our former president, President Trump, is banned from social media everywhere because no one wants to hear his voice in the social media circles. Big tech does not like what President Trump has to say. So here we are in a place where it's getting out of control. I'm an elected member of Congress. I represent Georgia's 14th district. My voice is the elected voice for my district, but yet Twitter wants to suspend me, and people all over Twitterverse are cheering and saying I should be kicked off. And this is completely wrong. Imagine this. Not too long ago, I was sued by a communist PAC for banning them from my page because of the horrible, nasty things they were saying to me on my Twitter page. And they sued me because you want to know what they said? They said that they could not see what I was saying. By being banned from my Twitter page, I was stopping their First Amendment, and they couldn't see what I was saying. Therefore, they couldn't participate. But yet Twitter suspended me for 12 hours. So you know what that really means? That bans everyone from seeing what I had to say. So what? Should this PAC sue Twitter now? Should people sue Twitter because they're banning my voice? You see, it's a hypocrisy. And these are the things that we can't allow to stand. I will not stop speaking. I will not stop tweeting. I will not stop posting. I will not stop asking questions. Because if you have members of Congress that aren't asking questions, then I don't know what kind of country we're going to have. But the reason why I am promoting this Fire Fauci Act is because we have a federal government employee that has lied, and it is public record this man has lied. Senator Rand Paul talked about it today in the hearing, in the Senate hearing. But yet he is still running the show as if he is center stage, and that is a problem. You see, in the private world, when people lie and they mislead people in their jobs, they get fired. All of you are members of the press and you work for media companies, and if you were to lie on the job and you were to mislead people or you were to do something wrong, and someone might argue and say you do mislead people, but your company would fire you. However, here we are, we have Dr. Anthony Fauci that just continues to keep doing his job and saying whatever he wants, but yet he funded to the Wuhan lab the gain-of-function research that allowed COVID-19 to become what it is, to kill people. And I think he needs to be fired. And so do millions and millions of Americans. And I think it's perfectly fine to talk about this on social media. After all, that's what social media started as, a place for people to meet, to communicate, to share thoughts and ideas. And there's nothing wrong with it.
Aaron Navarro, CBS News. Whip Scalise said today he got vaccinated, citing this Delta variant that's going around, and said he's confident that it's safe and effective. Two questions. Have you yourself gotten vaccinated, and do you disagree with the Republican whip?
Well, your first question is a violation of my HIPAA rights. You see, with HIPAA rights, we don't have to reveal our medical records, and that also involves our vaccine records.
And do you disagree with Whip Scalise when he says he's confident the vaccine is safe and effective?
Oh, no, I don't disagree with him. I just think it should be everyone's choice. That is what I've been saying. No one should be discriminated against because they choose to not get the vaccine. And I don't believe people should be discriminated against for choosing not to wear masks. But I will tell you something I absolutely do disagree with. I disagree with the recommendation for children to be wearing masks. I think that is completely wrong. Children, especially young children, need to see adults' faces. They need to see each other's faces. This is what helps them learn emotion and expression. It's how they play and talk with one another. It helps them phonetically. It helps them with their speech. And I think it's more harmful, specifically harmful to children, for them to wear masks. And our kids are healthy. Most children are extremely healthy. And most children are not at risk of having serious problems or death from COVID-19.
And on Twitter, have you been in contact with them in terms of appealing this latest ban?
I have not been in contact with them yet. I've tried to contact them in the past, and I don't really get any response.
Congresswoman, Leader
Yes.
McConnell said today that he wanted to encourage everybody to get a vaccine and to ignore all of those other voices that are giving demonstrably bad advice. Do you encourage your constituents to get vaccinated?
I encourage people to make up their own mind. And again, it's each person's individual choice, and I think it's very important to keep it that way, and also make sure no one is discriminated against. I don't believe in discrimination on any grounds, whether it's race, religion, sexual preferences, mask, vaccines, whatever. I just don't believe in discrimination.
Are you worried that not encouraging people to get vaccinated is causing people to make harmful decisions that will ultimately lead in more death?
No, I'm not worried about that at all. I'm encouraging people to make up their own mind.
But aren't you also discouraging them by spreading misinformation? You said that 6,000 deaths are related to the vaccine, and that's not backed up by science.
Well, actually, on the CDC website, Tia, and I really hope you look it up.
I looked it up.
It says
that
right
people
here.
died after the vaccine, but not necessarily
Right.
that the
It says
vaccine
during this time,
caused it.
VAERS received 12,313 reports of death among people who received a COVID-19 vaccine.
But that doesn't mean the vaccine caused it.
But it may mean that it caused it. We don't know, and I think this needs to be investigated. I think it's important to investigate it, don't you? Don't we want to know the truth?
The question
As a journalist, you definitely want to know the truth, right? So you can report that, because after all, you're reporting a lot of information, which means what you report makes you responsible as well.
Gentlelady from Georgia is recognized.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, I rise in opposition to the CR. The American people are $29 trillion in debt, thanks to Congress. And this Congress wants to borrow more money and more time to figure out how to run the government and how to pay for it. That is an outrage to the American people. You want to talk about courage and responsibility? Do you know what courage and responsibility is? It's learning how to manage the people's money. The people work hard every single day. They have to pay the taxes, and then they have to trust this House, this body, and the Senate to create a budget. But every single time, it's a budget that puts them further and further in debt. It is an audacity, the audacity of Congress to borrow more money and not be able to come up with a budget that makes sense and that we can pay for. What an outrage. What an irresponsibility. That isn't courage. That is not responsibility. That is out of control behavior that this Congress needs to rein in. This government should be shut down. You want to know why it should be shut down? Because the people in here cannot control themselves. The people in here don't understand how to balance a checkbook. And the people in here do not deserve the responsibility on how to spend the American people's money. $29 trillion. $29 trillion, Madam Speaker. Shut it down.
Gentlelady's time has expired.
Do not pass the CR. Shut it down.
Unusually cruel. That's the title that we gave this report, because this is the treatment that we found of the pretrial January 6 defendants being held right here in Washington, D.C. in the jail. Now, I will tell you, along with my colleagues here, which I'm very grateful to serve with them, we had been trying many times to get into the jail to take a tour, and we're used to doing that as members of Congress. We're used to touring facilities, and it's never been a problem. As a matter of fact, normally we're welcome. But we were denied entrance by Deputy Warden Landerkin multiple times. As a matter of fact, she'd locked us out before, and it was clear that there was a lot to hide. Right now, what we have happening in America is a two-tier justice system. Let's all take a little trip down memory lane, shall we? In the summer of 2020, there has been an estimated number somewhere around 7,750 to over 10,000 BLM demonstrations. According to the press, approximately 6% of them were violent. That's 570 riots if you do the math there. But here's the deal. There was only one riot that took place here in Congress at the Capitol on January 6th. But what we have seen unfold has been unbelievable. It is a two-tier justice system. So we know that approximately 90% and more of Antifa BLM rioters have been released from jail. Their charges have been dropped. We know that in cities across America, there have been over $2 billion in damage. But here at the Capitol on January 6th, it's approximately $1.5 million. There's a clear difference. But yet we have a January 6th committee that Nancy Pelosi is leading that is nothing but a political witch hunt on Republicans and Trump supporters all across America and anyone that was at the Capitol on January 6th. What's happening to these people being held in custody is wrong. It's unconstitutional. It's a violation of their rights. And it is an abuse that I call on every single member of Congress to start paying attention to. We need investigations. It's outrageous. The American people are purely upset, disgusted, and cannot believe this is happening in our country. And I think all of us should be appalled. You see, this jail in Washington, D.C. has been known. It's had many reports of being a despicable place as early as 1976. U.S. District Court Judge William Bryant ruled the conditions inside the jail violated the Eighth Amendment's ban on cruel and unusual punishment. In 2015, a report filed showed the jail was plagued by mold, vermin, and water leaks. 2016, the jail had to move 200 inmates because of excessive heat. In November 2021, the Marshal Service found the CDF to be inhospitable, but yet people are still being housed there. But the January 6 defendants are being treated differently on a whole nother level. They have been beaten by the guards. They are called white supremacists. They are denied religious services, haircuts, shaving, the ability to trim their fingernails. There's more outrageous things happening there. They're denied time with their attorneys. They are denied the ability to even see their families and have their families visit there. They're denied bail and being held there without bail. Many of these people have never been charged for a crime before. Some of them are veterans. And the treatment is unbelievable. They are told they have to denounce President Trump. They are told that their views are the views of cult members, even though these are men that every single night at 9 o'clock at night, they put their hand over their heart and sing the national anthem voluntarily. Imagine a group of men being held in jail with no idea of when they're going to go to court, no ability to bail out, no ability to see their family, being mistreated and abused worse than we treat terrorists at Gitmo, yet they have their hand over their heart every night at 9 o'clock and sing the national anthem. That's something I don't think any of us can fathom. While they're being persecuted by the very government that has the American flag over our buildings. This is completely wrong. Whether we agree, disagree, and I can tell you right now, I completely disagree and am very against the violence that happened on January 6th at the Capitol. We should all disagree with how these people are being treated. This is completely unacceptable. And as Americans, this should go beyond political boundaries, and we should all come together and declare that this is wrong and call for it to stop. We never want to have those in power to be able to wield their power against people they politically disagree with, especially in a time where we saw political riots all over the country, and the people that committed those riots, not only most of them have been let off of their charges, but many of them were never mistreated like this. I also want to explain something to you all. The Democrat platform, Act Blue, raised money for BLM, a lot of money. And BLM brought in millions and millions of dollars. But it was BLM violence and riots that were out of control. Many of these were peaceful demonstrations, but the riots that got out of control, those were assaults and violence on private property and private citizens. But yet here we see nothing day in and day out in the news. It's all about the Capitol riot. Congress only cares about itself. It clearly demonstrates to the American people. It does not care about your business that got burned down. It doesn't care about the job you lost. Congress doesn't care about your city or community that was devastated by violence. They don't care about you taxpayers that have to pay to fix and mend, and they don't care about the person that assaulted you, looted your store, or hurt you in this violence. They don't care about any of that. They only care about themselves. And they're willing to use the Department of Justice, the FBI, the prisons, the jails, the guards, and any means possible to make sure that you never mess with them again. This is wrong. It's unusually cruel.
Mr. Speaker, I yield 1 minute to the gentlewoman from Georgia.
The gentlewoman from Georgia is recognized.
We've heard a lot about text messages. I'd like the Democrats and the people on the January 6th committee to produce their text messages, Mr. Speaker, denouncing Antifa BLM riots that raged across American cities for a year. I would love to read those. But instead, we saw Democrats encourage, incite, and continue to call these riots peaceful. And then when they got arrested and put in jail, they bailed them out so they could go out and riot some more. I rise in opposition to this resolution to hold Mark Meadows in contempt of Congress because it's being held by nothing but a kangaroo court. Congress's job is to make laws, not enforce them. That's the role of the executive and the judicial branch of this government. But somehow the communists here in charge have forgotten, or no, not forgotten, are purposely abusing the Constitution and what this body of Congress is supposed to do. You see, when we go to this level, to the point where we're forgetting and abusing what our power is, then the American people will trust us no more. And that is exactly what the January 6th committee is doing.
The gentlelady from Georgia is recognized.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I rise in opposition to the Islamophobia bill. One thing that seems to be missing from this bill is the definition of Islamophobia. What this bill does is it sets up through the State Department an envoy to monitor and combat acts of Islamophobia and Islamophobic incitement that occur in foreign countries. This is about Islamophobia in foreign countries and the State Department monitoring and combating these acts. This is what we need to talk about. What does that exactly mean? If we pass this resolution, does that mean our State Department is going to be monitoring how Israel responds when rockets are being fired from Hamas into Israel? If they defend themselves, does that mean the State Department is going to combat their actions because it will be considered Islamophobic? More questions need to be asked. In Europe, there are no-go zones with high crime statistics. As a matter of fact, rape is a modern occurrence that happens all the time in these no-go zones. So if women are raped by Muslims in no-go zones and they want to file charges against them, is our State Department going to be monitoring those trials and then combating these women's defense because they're claiming it's Islamophobic because Muslim men rape them and that becomes part of the conversation? What exactly does this mean? And why is our State Department taking this on? It shouldn't be. As a matter of fact, this is a bill that we should not be debating. This is a bill we should not be voting on because the United States State Department doesn't need to be monitoring and combating Islamophobia when it's not even defined in the bill for foreign countries, not the United States of America. I've heard a lot of conversation from my colleagues across the aisle about Islamophobia in America, which we completely are against hate of any kind against anyone. And that's why we have laws against such hateful crimes and actions. But monitoring what's happening in foreign countries, which the State Department does, doesn't mean that it needs to combat Islamophobia when it's not even defined in the bill.
I yield an
This should
additional
be a no
15
vote.
to summarize.
Thank you. Additional time. Thank you. This is a vote for every single person in Congress should be no, because this is an open door with no end to the book of where this can go for the United States of America, and this is a role that we should not be engaging in. I yield back.
Gentleman reserves. The gentleman is recognized.
Well, I appreciate the fact that the gentleman yielded the gentlelady more time because that made absolutely no sense to me, Mr. Speaker. And let me just say to the gentleman from Pennsylvania on the Uyghur thing, let me repeat the history again so it's clear to him. A year ago, we passed the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act in the House. It went over to the Senate. Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump killed it. Nobody said a word. The bill that passed last week that the gentleman refers to is my bill. And the bill that we're going to take up later today is my bill that we negotiated the differences between the House and Senate with Senator Rubio. The gentleman will be happy to know that the bill that we're passing today is stronger than the Senate passed version. Now, maybe he would prefer a weaker version, because that's what a lot of corporations that are very friendly to my Republican friends are now lobbying very hard for, a watered-down bill. So this bill is not watered down. It is a stronger bill than passed the Senate. I wish it were. I would even like it to be stronger. But please don't politicize human rights in a way where I think, to be fair, my friend is mischaracterizing what the history of this issue is. And I don't take a back seat to anybody when it comes to human rights, or it comes to human rights with regard to the Uyghurs. We've been fighting for this for a long time. And we finally have a Speaker of the House and a President of the United States who will sign this bill when he gets there. And I want to thank the leadership in the Senate. I want to thank Senator Rubio. I want to thank Congressman Smith here in the House, Ranking Member McCall, and Chairman Meeks for their cooperation. But we are moving a bill forward that has teeth, that is real, that is tough, that is the strongest bill we have ever passed on this.